You can't hear me? Thank you. I'm going to ask everyone to take their seats. We still have some people coming in, but we have a tight agenda, and so we want to get started and keep everyone's day going. I'm Robin Fleischmann with the City of Golden Community and Economic Development Department, and on behalf of the city, I want to thank everyone for attending. This is a really great turnout. The idea for this business panel grew out of discussions between the department with Kim Mangle, who's a local nonprofit consultant, as a way to enhance the already close relationship between the business and nonprofit sectors in Golden. I want to let you know that this event is being live streamed and recorded, so speak up so that we can hear you. And with that, I'm going to turn things over to Kim, who is our moderator. But Steve Glick from the...
Will you advertise that there are chairs to people standing?
There are a few chairs for people standing, so please fill in. Okay, now I'm going to turn things over to Kim.
If you have an empty chair next to you, maybe just put a hand up so some of our folks in the back, feel free to come up and sit if you want to. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Welcome. We're so excited to see you all here. We were really, really excited about the turnout. We really didn't know what to expect, and I think as of last night, Robin had to start telling people they couldn't come because the fire marshal was going to get upset about room capacity, so I think that says so much about our community. So welcome. We're so excited that you're here. I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Kim Mangle, and I actually grew up here in Golden with several of the people who are in this room. And I am a nonprofit consultant. I've worked in the nonprofit sector my whole career, and about 10 years ago I started a consulting firm, and I've done consulting work for a variety of nonprofits all over Colorado and a few in other states. But because I grew up in Golden, I really was feeling a desire to get more connected to the local community. I have children in the schools here, and so anyway, I just started trying to reach out to some of the local nonprofits and get a little bit more connected, and so this really grew out of that. So I just want to tell you a little bit about our agenda today. There's some copies of the agenda at the back of the room if you want to grab one. But really, we're just going to spend some time. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Executive Director Roundtable, which is kind of what this is a part of. And then we're going to really spend most of our time with a moderated panel discussion. We have some great panelists that I'll be introducing to you in just a few minutes. And then we'd love to spend a lot of our time doing some question and answer so that all of you in the audience have a chance to share a little bit about what you wanted to learn today. So I just thought I would talk a little bit about what corporate social responsibility is. I'm sure you all know, but it's really a hot topic right now. It's really just the way that businesses choose to engage in their local community. And this can take a lot of different forms. It can be through volunteerism, it can be through direct donations, it can be through getting employees involved in various ways. So there are a lot of different ways that corporations choose to engage in corporate social responsibility. Robin and I tried to get a variety of businesses here representing small and large and startup, and just to hear from different types of businesses. So I really just want to thank all of our panelists for taking the time to be here today. We're so grateful. And I also wanted to just say that in order to figure out who to have on the panel, I asked of the Executive Director Roundtable members for ideas, and probably many of you in the audience, your businesses came up. We had a lot of great suggestions about businesses to invite, and again, I think it's a testament to how wonderful our business community is here. So we had a hard time. It was hard to get only six. We could have had a lot more. So those of you who are in the audience, we could have had you on the panel, I'm sure, as well, but again, it just shows, I think, all the great enthusiasm for this topic. So just to get a sense of who's here, I thought it would be fun if we had, if you're here representing the business community, whether you're an owner of a business or an employee of a business, will you raise your hand? Okay, so it looks like maybe about half. If you're here with a nonprofit organization, whether you're a staff or a board member or volunteer, raise your hand. Okay, awesome. If you're a city elected official, raise your hand. Do we have anyone? Wonderful. Yeah, hi, Laura. Thank you for coming. And then if you work for the city, if you're a city staff member, will you raise your hand? And then if you're a school employee, I know we have at least one, maybe others. Awesome. Great. School of Mines, Golden High School. Did I forget anybody? Any sectors? I hope not. But I think that shows that we have a really great mix of people in the audience, so that's great to see. So just a few brief housekeeping announcements. Restrooms are right out the door and to the left. Feel free to get up if you need to. We've been asked not to have food in here. We apologize. Usually we do lunches at these meetings, but we couldn't do that today. If you did not get a chance to sign in on the sign-in sheet, we would really love for you to do that. It's at the back of the room, so if you could do that on your way out, that would be great. There's some items here at the front that you're welcome to grab. And do any of you have like swag and items that you brought that you wanted people to grab on their way out? No. Okay, perfect. So there's some things at the back. If you didn't get a chance, you can grab those on your way out. And I think that's it. So I wanted to just really briefly tell you about the Golden Executive Director Roundtable, which is the group that's hosting this meeting today. So really it started in 2017. I reached out to Heather Schneider and Jen Temke just to kind of say, you know, I grew up here in Golden and I'm really interested in getting more connected to what's happening with the nonprofit. And the three of us really worked together to think about how to start this conversation. And so I did a survey and a focus group of some of our nonprofits, and there's some information at the back about that. But what we learned in that process is that our nonprofits here in Golden, number one, there's a lot of them. So we currently have about 45 members of this Executive Director Roundtable, which is awesome. But they were really interested in learning how to be more connected to one another, thinking through ways they could collaborate on various projects and professional development opportunities. So in February of 2018, we kicked off this Golden Executive Director Roundtable. It's made up of the executive directors and several other community partners of nonprofits that are located in and or serving Golden, and we meet monthly. We've done some really great professional development and collaboration. So this is actually one of those meetings, and this came about because our members really wanted to think about ways to just get to know our business community a little bit better, to learn a little bit from our business community, and think about ways to be strategic in partnering together. So without further ado, I really want to now welcome all of our panelists, and we're going to kick into our panel conversation. So the first thing I want to do is, let me grab my little questions here. I'm going to just ask each of our panelists, we're going to go through, and if you could just tell us your name and your title, we'll do that first, and then we're going to get into our questions. And then remember, at the end, you'll have time for some Q&A. So, Amy?
All right, I'll kick it off. I'm Amy Danwolf. My husband and I own Powder 7. It's a ski shop in North Golden.
Hi, I'm Gloria Schock, and I just want to first thank Kim, the City of Golden, the Roundtable, for bringing us all together for this important conversation. I lead up global external communications, community affairs, and also do a little sustainability work as well for Molson Coors Brewing Company, which is the parent company of our U.S. business, which all of you know very well, Miller Coors. So we have a long history and heritage, of course, here in Golden, and then our global headquarters is based out of downtown Denver.
I'm Jennifer Temke, the founder and owner of Connects Workspace and owner of Cafe 13.
Hi, I'm Jen Toohill. My husband and I own Bob's Atomic Burgers here in Golden.
Hi, I'm Jill Rhodes. I work at the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, and my title there is Community Relations Lead.
Hi, I'm Jim Sinclair. I'm with Wells Fargo, and I'm a premier banker.
Thanks, and you all met Robin. So I'm going to start with Amy, and I'm going to ask Amy to tell us a little bit about, Amy, what motivates Powder 7 to be involved in the community, and really tell us a little bit about what you hope to gain through your community engagement efforts and what that means to your company.
Yeah, I think, supporting the community that we're in is something that comes naturally to us, and it's really important because as a business, you're kind of nothing without the community that you live and work in. So for us, it started as just something that we felt was right to do. And what we hope to gain from it, I think was the second half of your question. That's just, obviously we want to expand our market and grow new customers. And if those customers also align with a nonprofit that we support, that's great because we work specifically with nonprofits in sectors that overlap with our industry, particularly the environment. So, thank you.
So I'd say for Molson Coors and Miller Coors, as I had said earlier, we have a long history and heritage of giving back within our local communities where employees live and work. And I think there's so many competitive advantages as well. It really does touch our bottom line in terms of the work that we do in our community. When we invest in the communities where employees live and work, and try to ensure that this is the best place to live, work, and play, we're going to drive and be able to recruit the top talent. I think a lot of folks know that soon, about 50% of our workforce will be millennials. And we've done a lot of research on what drives millennials and what they're passionate about. They're definitely a key market for us. And, they are absolutely much more engaged and more interested in working for companies that are giving back to their community, and they're leading the way around environmental and social responsibility. I'd also say that, our investors, it's been really interesting. I was talking to Kim a little bit about this as well. I've noticed, especially within the past couple years, there's been much more expectations coming from investors around ensuring that the companies that they're investing in are doing right and being a force for good in the community. Just last year, we had one of our top 10 investors reach out and say they wanted to come to the Golden Brewery to see exactly what we were doing, who we were partnering with from a nonprofit standpoint, to be able to improve our environmental footprint from grain to glass. And they asked very thoughtful, critical questions. And I think that that's something that we're going to continue to see in the investor realm as well. It's just going to be expected. And then our consumers as well. I mean, it's definitely a market differentiator. If a company is purpose-driven and giving back to their community and really trying to improve their social and environmental impact, that can create customer loyalty as well with a lot of studies that we've done. So it's a win-win for our business and also and continuing to ensure that our community thrives.
So I have a little bit of a unique vantage point because my husband, Dan Temke, founded a nonprofit here in Golden, the Neighborhood Rehab Project. And so before I started Connects Workspace in June 2015, I was in the mortgage industry. I was on the finance side, and I was having, tens and hundreds of millions of dollars kind of go through my desk every day, and then I'm watching him build this nonprofit from the ground up, and I was like, just that huge dichotomy of difference in the amount of resources different industries have. So when I started Connects Workspace, one of my core values was that, and it's from a perspective of my members, because it's a co-working space where people are members, but where my members serve together. And I also was highly interested in bringing nonprofits and for-profits together in a co-working space. There's a lot of them that are very industry focused, or we have amazing place down in Denver, Posner Center, that focuses on nonprofits. I just felt there was a huge value, maybe because our marriage, it was profit, no nonprofit, but I just felt there was a huge value in bringing them together under one roof. And I've just seen amazing things happen with watching nonprofits just grow and succeed out of this space, and watching for-profits really find a place to give back to their community. And so it's just been a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Okay. I think Bob and I always felt, we love Golden. We think Golden is golden. Of course, we're on a smaller scale than some of you guys. We're just a small restaurant. And we felt very important, even when we were opening in 2012, I wanted to do a fundraiser for our local school, Mitchell Elementary. And we donated a percentage of our sales, and it was way higher than any sales that we had prior. And I thought, well, this is a great thing to do. And through getting involved with Mitchell, I learned a lot more about other nonprofits. And so we started on trying to do every month doing a fundraiser for a nonprofit or for our local schools. And we kind of refer to it as meaningful advertising, because on any of these scheduled fundraisers, our sales would be, significantly higher than a normal Saturday or Sunday. And again, we love Golden. We live just down the street. Both of our daughters go to the local schools. And so we just thought it was, the right thing to do. We also are avid skiers. We like our environment. Again, we've learned a lot through being involved with the Golden Civic Foundation, all the wonderful nonprofits here in Golden. And so as a small business owner, we just felt it was very important for us to be involved in our community, to give back, because the community has been so wonderful to support us as well. And from like a business standpoint, when you reach out to these nonprofits, they advertise for you. So it's kind of the cost that you might advertise in some flyer or some mailer or some receipt at King Soopers the money will go towards a good thing versus just printed advertising. So we kind of looked at it as that, and that's why, and we love Golden, and we want to keep it golden is golden.
So at NREL, we are one of the 17 national laboratories for the Department of Energy. And everywhere where there's a Department of Energy laboratory, one of our big pushes is to make sure we are good stewards of the community that we're in. So it's just part of our mission space to really be involved in the community. So that's like checking the first box. We just kind of have to do it. But we also find that there are a lot of employees that enjoy doing this work, much like what Gloria was saying, especially our millennial employees. Last 5 years, we've changed our model from being a one-time-a-year check a box, stroke a check to a nonprofit type campaign to year-round engagement through volunteerism and other activities, and really listening to where do our employees want to be engaged and making sure that we're engaged in Golden as much as possible. And our engagement, a lot of it is around STEM education, but we are really open, we're really employee driven, where our employees want to be engaged in the nonprofit world also.
When Kim came to our branch and told us a little bit about the event, there was a couple of different directions we could go, and one would have been bringing in someone from corporate to do a PR kind of press release and talk about how large of a company Wells Fargo is, and we donated $285 million, et cetera, et cetera. But we decided we really wanted to get out into the community and embrace the people that are here. And in doing that, we actually had to do a lot of research and realize just how misinformed a lot of us are. So there may have been conversations you've had previously in the past, either at our branch or at other branches, and you may not have been given the correct information. And I was kind of here to help put you in touch and give you a point of contact so that we can help you find the solutions that you need. We have a lot of resources available to us. Every employee at Wells Fargo is actually paid 16 hours a year to volunteer for not-for-profits. They can do that on the weekend or during actual work hours. In Colorado, we had a less than 50% utilization on that, and that's something we really aim to change. And we actually do have connections further up into corporate channels, but on the local sense, either myself or Braxton Johnson, our branch manager, he's actually the community engagement officer for the 8 branches that are somewhat local. So please find us and let us help you find the solutions that you need.
Thank you. I should mention that our executive director roundtable typically meets at Wells Fargo. Braxton was really generous in providing space for us because, as you know, it can be difficult to find meeting space in Golden. So that's really how our partnership began to grow, which has been wonderful. So we're grateful for that. What I'd like to do next is I'm going to ask each panelist to tell us a little bit more specifically about the community engagement opportunities that you have within your company or your corporation. So, what are the very specific things that either you provide or your employees provide? And we'd love to hear a little bit more about that. Amy?
Sure. So ours range from like hosting simple events to support nonprofits. So like an example of that would be, we do a lot of work with Conservation Colorado. We hosted a ballot night where they went through and like the ballot for the primary and like item by item was like, this is the issue, these are the stances, so that like it could just inform the public. So that was cool, really easy to pull off event. And then on the bigger end of the spectrum, bigger end of the spectrum, we do like 7% days, which is similar to like Atomic Bob's, where we donate 7% of our sales to a given nonprofit. So we recently did one on March 7th, which went to Outdoor Lab Foundation, which is the program every 6th grader in Jeffco has to go through in order to graduate from 6th grade. And like a lot of the other panelists, that's really near and dear to me because not only do I have 2 kids who are going to go through Golden Public Schools and Jeffco Public Schools in a few years, but I think that's building the next generation of skiers. That's building people who are going to fall in love with the outdoors, like my husband and I did. So building on that. And then another thing that we did was actually a collaboration with Icelandic, who is also based in Golden, and we worked with them to design a custom ski. So we had our in-house graphic designer design the top sheets. That's like the pretty graphics you see on the ski. But then we also made like a cool different core for the ski as well. We branded it along with Protect Our Winters. So it was the Protect Our Winters, which is a nonprofit that's based in Boulder, around fighting climate change. And it was the first ski to fight climate change. So that was like a much longer term project. We invested a lot of resources in it, but then that was like a really cool, tangible thing to see come out of it. And then we donated a percentage of those sales to Protect Our Winters. So it's kind of 3 different things that we've done and continue to do.
Those are great examples. Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. Gloria?
Yeah, I think it's important to start out the conversation talking a little bit about our strategy. So I think, you'll see much more with companies these days. It's not just writing checks to any organization. It really is trying to be strategic and coherent and align your company goals with community needs in terms of how you're trying to make an impact. And so I think for us, no question we can't make great beer without great water. And so very early on, we made a commitment in terms of the work that we're doing in the community and our partnerships around water stewardship, water conservation, improving water quality, particularly where we have our brewery locations in water-stressed regions. And Colorado is a perfect example of what we would consider a water-stressed community and where we have a brewery, and then also in our agricultural communities. So there's a lot of work that we do with farmers across the state that produce the barley and hops for our beer. Particularly, we work with over 150 families in the San Luis Valley on water conservation efforts, and we're doing a lot of data analysis that we can actually share with these farmers that provide a lot of low-hanging fruit on when they use less water or if they harvest earlier, it doesn't affect the quality of the barley, and in some cases actually improves the quality of the barley while saving water, and being able to find those types of partnerships that help us reach those goals. So a perfect example would be the Nature Conservancy. We've worked very closely with them with a showcase barley farm to be able to really figure out what are the best practices and partner with the federal government as well on those best practices to share those best practices, because about 93% of the water that we use to make beer is utilized within the agricultural supply chain. I think something that is really relevant to just Golden, as well, is a partnership that we started about 3 years ago with the Nature Conservancy, and it was actually in partnership with Wells Fargo as well, Jim's organization, and with PepsiCo, where we had shared values around water conservation. And it was kind of funny at first when I talked to Wells Fargo about trying to work on a forest restoration project, I was like, why would Wells Fargo even care about that? But because they're giving loans to farmers, of course they want to ensure that there's sustainability in terms of ensuring that these farmers are able to produce what they need to produce and survive and be able to pay back these loans while doing the right thing by the community. So that we started that project, this forest restoration project, about 3 years ago to really work on forest restoration right here in our backyard in the Front Range forests to improve water quality and water quantity. And we've been able to restore over 800 acres of forest. And we're going to, because of just how successful the program has been, we're going to be continuing that partnership with the Nature Conservancy. And then also getting our employees involved in that, leveraging our employees with these partnerships. So when there was controlled burns and fires that they were doing to kind of thin out some of the forests that were unhealthy, we're able to get our employees to come out and actually clean up those areas post-fire. So being able to leverage our number one resource, our employees, get engaged with our strategy so they would understand our strategy. We just have a much more powerful story and collective story to share as well. So I think that's just one of the examples of how we give back in that space. And then I'll just say too, the other focus area for us is really around economic empowerment. Once again, we've done a lot of research on what was important to our target market. So I'd say the millennial generation, the Z generation that are over 21 years of age. A lot of the discussion from the research that we did and some of the focus groups was a lot of concern from these students on how am I going to pay for college? I'm going to have so much debt. If I wanted to start a business, how would I do that? How do I get the skill sets that I need to be able to start a business and grow a business and get the seed funding that we need as well? So a lot of the work we do is around also entrepreneurship, economic empowerment, workforce development types of programs. And really from our perspective, if we can help grow the economy locally and nationally and globally, then that's, and hopefully in turn, going to help us grow and drive our business and sell more beer. So that's kind of our perspective as well. And so one way that we also try to align our employees with our strategy is our employees have the flexibility to volunteer their time anywhere that they want to volunteer, whether it's helping out at a soup kitchen or at their child's school. But if they log those hours within our system so we can track them and be able to share the amount of hours that our employees are giving back to the community, we match that with cash. So we make a $2 monetary donation for every hour that's volunteered, and that goes towards that economic empowerment strategy with a partnership that we have in the United Way, and those funds stay local. So the United Way has a best-in-class program called Centers for Family Opportunity, where folks who've lost their jobs or are not making enough in their current job or just need to be able to find a better full-time paying job, they provide them with the financial guidance, services, training, resume reviews, and help them find jobs. And since we started that program where that volunteer match went to the back to work campaign is what we call it, we've been able to help over 600 people find jobs in the Conifer area and in the Denver area as well.
Thank you so much. So I'm a Colorado native and have been in Golden since 6th grade, so quite a long time. So for Connect's Workspace, I chose to give back to Golden. I support Golden events, Golden service projects. I stay very, very focused on community. 10% of my revenue goes towards subsidizing nonprofits as members of Connect's Workspace. That's how I can kind of create that differentiation between for-profits and nonprofits, because what I'm finding is that nonprofits, they have, a passion, they have a desire to go out and to make our world a better place. But those administrative functions, the staffing, the space, printing, conference rooms, event space, it gets really cumbersome and difficult for them to figure that out on such a small budget, especially if they're a startup nonprofit. I've seen, like Go Farm, Eileen is here. Go Farm grew up, they're still members of Connect's Workspace, and they grew and actually got their facts of their nonprofit, status at Connect's Workspace all the way to today, where they have staff and they're gonna outgrow me, and that's super exciting. And so that's where I really choose to focus on that partnership. But then also, as our members, we have over 200 members, we have service days. So we have the Be a Tool Day of service. We serve together there. We have a happy hour to put together the Easter eggs for the Easter egg hunt that will happen in a month. We participate in Senior Santa, where we can purchase gifts for seniors that don't have families around town around Christmas time. I sponsor Civic Foundation events and Chamber of Commerce events, Buffalo Bill Days. Golden is my heart, my love, and that's where we choose to serve. And it's been just a lot of fun, and I have seen the return on investment far and wide in relational equity, and as well as watching my business grow. And people really want to be a part of something that's bigger than themselves. So to be a part of a membership in a community where you're not just growing your own business and with your head down, you're actually looking out. And it is honestly the reason that I started a conversation with Kim and Heather, because I wanted to help nonprofits more, and I just don't have the resources or capacity, but this roundtable has created that, and it's been absolutely wonderful.
All right, a lot of ditto of what she said. I've been in Golden since '02. My husband's been here since '99, and us kind of opening this business was kind of a crazy dream my husband had, and we actually, because the grace of our dads loaning us the money to open it, we did. So I think we felt very blessed that we were able to have this opportunity to open a business here in Golden, and we do love this little town. And early on, when we did our first fundraiser for Mitchell, and I just try to keep going every month doing a fundraiser, and actually early on, it ended up costing us a little more than we expected, and winter was really rough one year, and I was like, oh gosh. So I kind of had to step back and think about, okay, what nonprofits are the most important to us, and I kind of had to sit back, and it was food. So we always, one of our biggest fundraisers every year is for the Golden Backpacks, and our first fundraiser for them was in May of 2013, and they just started their Snack and Wagon program, which reached all the kids throughout the summer. And another one that we've just started getting involved with is Go Farm, as well as all the schools and all sorts of other events. And we do try to do a lot of sponsor events too with the Golden Civic Foundation as well. But our biggest fundraiser, again, is always for the Golden Backpacks. And we donate 30% of our sales in one day, and that's a big chunk. And it makes us feel good because ourselves, the year before we opened Bob's, my husband and I were struggling financially, and we were kind of in a place like, what are we going to do? And I still think if our dads weren't there to loan us money, we'd be utilizing things like the Golden Backpacks to just survive here in Golden. And by being involved with the Golden Civic Foundation, we learned a lot about all the other wonderful nonprofits. And again, it's hard to kind of reach out monetarily to all of them. But one thing I never turn back is if anybody asks me for a donation, gift certificate, T-shirt, hat, I give them. Even people from Denver, anytime, and we do. I mean, I get probably once a week someone asking for something. And for me, the gift certificate, I would say half the time they come in, half the time they don't, but at least it's getting your name out there to somewhere that might not have ever seen it, Bob's Atomic Burger somewhere, and be like, oh, they're, again, it's kind of advertising, and like I always said, meaningful advertising is kind of like what we like, and as a small business, it's helped us tremendously. Our, people might not have been in our place before, but they've heard the work that we've done in our community, and it's also our entire staff is born and raised here in Golden too. And we try to pay them well enough so they can maybe live here. But again, they're still with us after 6.5 years, some of them. Some of them ready for them to kind of branch off because they're in their mid-20s. But and they're millennials, which is a whole different, because I'm dealing with a whole probably different group of millennials in the restaurant industry than in the business industry, so. Anyways, but we, again, my husband and I love Golden. We've been here. We plan on staying here. And giving back has been very beneficial for us.
So we have, at NREL, we have a few different branches of how we give. From a corporate perspective, we do have some sponsorships that we'll do, like Golden Schools Foundation. We've been sponsoring Golden Gallup for a while now, and done sponsorships for Golden Civic Foundation for the gala pretty regularly. But from an employee perspective, that's where we do a lot of our giving and volunteerism. And we've had an employee giving campaign for pretty much forever, at least back to 1991. That's when we can get our record straight for sure. Last year, our giving campaign raised over $470,000 for nonprofits that our employees chose. So that's really, the majority of that money is coming from our employees who are just stroking a check or deciding to give through a payroll deduction. And through those giving campaigns, we'll have charities come out for a charity fair. This last year we did a kickball tournament, which was really fun. Hard to organize, but it was fun. But it was another way to get employees engaged and connecting them with nonprofits. So it was pay to play, and the money went to charity. Like I mentioned before, we've been trying to engage our younger employees more and more, and a lot of that has taken kind of a grassroots effort, where we really try to ask employees where they want us to donate, what their passion is. So one group we have is our climbing club, so employees who like to rock climb. And instead of just getting together to climb, they're trying to do something beneficial for nonprofits at the same time. So they've worked with Paradox Sports and American Alpine Club and Powder 7. I think we've done something with you all too. So we're kind of like cross-collaborating wherever we can to kind of get our employees engaged in the community. And most recently, 2 years ago, we started a program called Community Volunteer Connections, where we will match employee volunteerism with a match, kind of like Coors, but the match goes to the nonprofit that the employee volunteered with. And it's a $10 per hour match, which we have a smaller employee group, so it's easier to do a little bit more. Our budget is limited, but so far we've given out $50,000 through that effort alone. So just doubling down with get our employees out there to give their time, and then we'll give a little bit of a donation to go with it.
First off, it was really nice to hear some of the partnerships we've got going on at Wells Fargo. I was unaware of the Miller Courts one until I got here today. I knew about the NREL partnership just a few months ago, and I love seeing some of Wells Fargo's funds being diverted to environmental causes because they're important to me as well. And actually, I know our team was super excited about the backpack project that was going on, and everyone on our team was excited about that too. So seeing that we're, making somewhat of an impact is very nice. But some of the things I was actually looking into locally is Wells Fargo does do grants, and last year in Colorado alone, they did 236 grants for only local companies, and that totaled $12 million. These are not things that are out of reach. You just need to be getting to the right sections and know how to go for those. Like on a branch level, we have a hard time being able to donate money, but we can guide you to these things. Ironically enough, Wells Fargo had a press release this morning, though. They're finally actually adding a match for employee contributions. In Colorado alone, we did 1.1 million in payroll deductions for not-for-profits. Mine's honestly going to some giant Wells Fargo employee fund because I didn't know there was anything else. And actually, when I saw the press release this morning, seeing that they would do a match up to $2,000 per employee, I looked into it and found out there's 100,000 companies that are registered on this platform. And a quick little search of Golden brought up more than 300 of you that would be eligible to that. Knowing that we could actually direct our local funds to the local people that we work with is really important. And add that onto the fact that if we can do a better job of communicating effectively with you and scheduling events in advance and having our volunteer force show up for your events and be there for you. I think just in the local region of 8 branches, we've got more than 2,000 hours worth of manpower we can donate, and that's excluding their kids and their spouses and other members of their family that also may be available to, be at your disposal. So.
Awesome. I just wanted to comment that, in the executive director roundtable, I've heard from the nonprofits just that it can be challenging sometimes to find resources and volunteers. And then I was hearing from the business community that they have employees that want to volunteer and often have a hard time finding out where to do that. So this is just such a natural and awesome synergy. So it's just been really fun to see as these conversations, they've been, a lot of this has been going on for a long time, but I think just a little bit more of a focused conversation around this, we're seeing some really exciting results, which is great. So the last couple of questions. So, in thinking about how our local nonprofit community might choose to engage with a business, I was really interested, Robin and I were interested in hearing from our panelists about what makes a request or an engagement with a nonprofit more likely to be successful. So, what criteria would a business look for before choosing to engage with a local nonprofit? And I thought it might be nice if our panelists could maybe provide examples of what has worked well and maybe what has not worked as well. I can imagine that you get a lot of requests, and I can imagine that can be hard sometimes. So I'd love to hear just what works and how you kind of select which causes you might choose to get engaged in and that kind of thing.
Yeah, totally. So I think early on we realized that we had to identify exactly what causes we would donate to. Because it's like several times a week, like I'll get an email where it's like, donate to this silent auction, donate to this, like come to this event, set up a booth. Like there's just so many things that we're bombarded with. So early on, we identified that the things that are most important to us are the environment, public education, especially within Golden, kind of branched that out. I really don't ever say no to anything about public education. And then like stuff within the community. So to me, that just gave me a foundation on which to stand, where if someone approached me, like, for example, ALS, like, is a really, like, near and dear cause to me, and something that, like, I absolutely believe that should be supported and funded, but like, that's not my place to do that. Like, I have to direct my funds, like, appropriately. So there's been times where I'm like, no, I'll send you a gift certificate to that, but I can't do a monetary donation or something like that. I'm with Bob's. Pretty much everybody gets gift certificates. We do, like, free tunes because, yeah, like, that makes total sense, and our cost on that is relatively low. So I think outlining your criteria and then having the people that fit that criteria when they reach out, it helps from their perspective if they've done their homework, if they know who they're emailing. I hate nothing more than to get an email that says, "Dear Sir." And it's like, come on, like, look at our About Us page. Like, you know where this is going. You know Amy is not a sir. Actually, my 4-year-old calls me sir all the time, so maybe there's something to it. I don't totally mind that. So do your homework, like know what you're getting into, research the company, know their values. All this stuff is on our website, like plain and clear, and it is, I'm sure, on like everybody else's website too. So yeah, do your homework and also like tell me how you're gonna help. Like how will you, don't just ask for something, you have to give something too. And that's where I see like success is when, hey, we would love to be a beneficiary of your next 7% day. We can email our members. We have 30,000 members in Colorado. Like of this, we know the demographic fits your demographic. They're 30 to 55, like income over whatever, avid outdoors people, blah, blah, blah. Like show me that we're gonna get something in return. You can blast to social, whatever it's gonna be, but there has to be a give and take. Yeah, I think those are probably the.
Great. Thanks, Amy. Gloria?
Yeah, I mean, I completely echo everything that you said. I think doing your homework is such a critical component. I probably get 50 requests a week for beer donations, sponsorships, partnerships, and I'd say the majority of them fall outside of the purview of our strategy. So if folks actually looked at our website and saw where we're focusing our efforts, then it would have saved both of us their time. Not that I think sometimes there are things that can fall a little bit outside of our strategy, especially if it's commercial and it's something that our brands kind of align with and see synergies with, whether that's like with Coors Light or Banquet. And sometimes it's worthwhile having those conversations just to see if there is something that makes sense in terms of being able to support your organization while we're trying to sell beer. Like a perfect example would be just the Wildland Firefighters Foundation, for instance, and with Coors Banquet Protect Our West. It's a national campaign, but it has local impact. And it's to protect wildland firefighters who, protect our backyards every day. And when you purchase Coors Banquet during the summer, and we expanded this program into Colorado last year. For every case that's purchased, a certain percentage goes towards supporting these wildland firefighters. That's something that's a little outside of our strategy, and so that's where I'd say that there are some exceptions. And so sometimes it's worthwhile to call just to have a discussion. I'd say most likely with those types of brand partnerships that are commercial, there has to generally be a national nonprofit that we have a partnership with so that we can roll it out and execute it on a national level. But there a lot of times are local chapters, right, of these organizations as well that can benefit from these partnerships. So that's where sometimes there can be that local component and touch as well. Completely agree, that there has to be ROI as well. I think a perfect example of a partnership that we have that I think provides great ROI while supporting our commitment to water stewardship is, for instance, the Greenway Foundation, which is an organization that we've been supporting for a while that protects the South Platte River, which is important to our company as well. And they build parks and trails and have education programs around the river. So we started a summer event with them, a Coors Light South Platte River Fest that would bring consumers together. The Greenway Foundation purchases our beer at a discounted price, so it's helping us drive our revenue, but then they're also profiting off of selling the beer at a higher price. And then we had asked that consumers would be able to vote on where they wanted those funds to go from the beer that they sold to their programming. So it would educate consumers about what the Greenway Foundation is doing, so they're not just coming to a festival to have fun and hang out at the river and do stand-up paddleboarding, but really understand why the Greenway Foundation exists and empowering those consumers to have a choice in where the funds with their beer purchases would go to. So it really ties to that kind of consumer commercial impact while also aligning with our commitment to water stewardship as well. So where we can find those types of creative partnerships that are really going to provide that return on investment for the community and then also for us, and it's mutually beneficial, that's really the ideal partnership.
The criteria I look for is I am really passionate about grassroots efforts. I'm passionate about startup nonprofits, baby nonprofits. That's where it's a really, really hard world building a nonprofit. And I just, I I don't have the resources, of course, but I do have a few resources that I try to put into that. So Golden is one major component. Grassroots, not necessarily startup, but where I can tangibly see the results. I understand from point A to point B what their focus is, which leads into transparency, that you can see what they're doing, you can see where the money is flowing, what they're using their resources and their volunteers for. It's pretty simple from my perspective as far as how I make decisions. And then that it's mutually beneficial, whether it's that, yeah, my logo is on their website as a sponsor or a donor, whether there is shared mutual support in even just connections with other members that they're a part of the greater community, and you can see that it's not, I want to be respectful, but it's not a hands out, but that it's like, how can we put hands together to work towards something? Being on the nonprofit side of things as well, I think it's highly beneficial when nonprofits are willing to link arm in arm with for-profits and move forward.
This is so out of my comfort zone. I want to tell you this. I'm not in the business world at all. I just have a business randomly. As far as people approaching us for stuff, again, we have narrowed it down to just kind of focusing in. Again, feeding hungry children in Golden is probably number one. Our public education as well, and that's kind of where we kind of stick to. And I like being here because I've already learned certain things about having my employees volunteer, which I'm going to talk to Tyson afterwards, because I'm like, I'm going to do that too. Offer that, say, hey, kids, on a Thursday night, I'll pay you to go stuff food in the backpacks for Golden Backpacks. And then another thing we also love is animals, and that's something we have started also getting involved with too. But as far as a business, I just kind of had to sit back and say, what is most important? And any of the nonprofits have always come and educated me about what they do, and I think that one-on-one talking and showing me what they've done and seeing what they've done for our community, and that's always been, makes me feel good to be able to give to them and see what they have done. And that's about it. Sorry.
So I'm going to echo what everybody else said. It's definitely got to be a mutually beneficial ask. We want to make sure that if we're putting out our money or our volunteers, that it makes sense for NREL to be involved, and that we're all benefiting from it and bettering the community. Areas we really focus on, definitely STEM education. What we're doing at the National Lab with research and development, we need to make sure there is a STEM workforce going forward. So anything tied to education, there's a good chance we're going to take a closer look at that one. And then also our employees engaged with you already. That's also a good indicator that if our employees are already engaged there, then we'll take another closer look to see if we can be involved also and see where we can maximize our impact. Sorry, I was going to forget the answer to the second part.
Okay,
Sorry, Jim.
go right
Just
ahead.
jumping right in there. One thing an example of something that worked well, we've been doing a program with Mile High United Way for 5 years now. We call it Read With Me. So it's a power lunch power lunch is what they call it. We call it Read With Me. We go and get a group of volunteers, about 40 volunteers, go and read with local school children. And we used to go through Denver Public Schools and decided we wanted to move closer to home, closer to Golden. And I reached out to the Golden Schools Foundation, and Kim connected me to Pleasant View, and we were there for their last year before they closed. So we had a really good impact there with the kids at Pleasant View, and since it was their year that they were closing, we gave each student a book. So it was kind of a nice, we want to make sure you go close the school, but go on to something better also. And then since Pleasant View closed, we were able to move on to Welchester, which was also thanks to our connection through Golden Schools Foundation. So anywhere we can find those doubling up of, we support Golden Schools Foundation with the Golden Gallop, but they can also help us find other ways to support the community. So we're always looking for those connections.
I was thinking this morning about some of the challenges we face between a local organization and sort of a giant bank. And funny little story. For Christmas, through a donation, Wells Fargo gave me this silly little pony, ugly little thing. It's sitting on my desk. To give you an idea of like just how much red tape we run into on the compliance side, our audit team removed that from my desk in the middle of the night as unapproved advertising. So if we tell you we can't put out a little flyer for something, unfortunately we can't, but we do have resources available. And one of the things I wanted to let you know is, if nothing else, you do have one person who's a passionate advocate on your side, even if I am a nervous public speaker and may not be conveying that information over to you. In regards to several different layers, if you need volunteer hours, most important thing is communication. The earlier you do it, the better. We need your name of the organization, we need your EIN, we need the dates, we need to know how many people you've got. Start it simple, we can engage and progress the conversation further. Furthermore to that, we also need to follow up on our end, because occasionally we let things fall, we lose things. And so follow up with us if we're ever dropping the ball on anything. We do have lots of resources, whether it's in, banking services or, working with our private bank, maybe your more influential donors looking into donor advice funds, transition planning, estate planning, et cetera. These are things that could largely benefit your organization if, the right people are put into the right place. And, what else do I have on here? We'll go with that.
Thank you. So I think many of you addressed what the next question is, but so we can make this one a little bit short, but I'm just curious, really succinctly, what do you wish nonprofits or schools or organizations knew before they reached out to you? I think we've touched on it, so if you don't have anything to add, you don't have to say anything, but if you have any little nuggets of what that takeaway would be, let's just take a second to talk about that.
Yeah, I think I probably covered this.
Don't
but-
call her sir.
Yeah,
I
don't
know
call
a
me
little
sir.
bit, yeah.
No, but just, yeah, tell me why are you reaching out to me? Show me that you didn't just Google a bunch of companies and go down the list. Make me feel special.
I want to feel special.
I know, that's kind of just the rule. Just like, if you can make me feel special, you're gonna do all right.
So, I think I covered pretty much everything, but one thing I would say that, of course, on my side seems like a no-brainer, but sometimes I just have to remind people about this. We're in the alcohol industry, right? And so we're not going to be providing beer donations or grant funds, or having our employees volunteer and wear our brand, as a company, for any organization that's primarily serving youth. And that's hard for our employees. It's really tough, because who doesn't love supporting youth and children? But we don't, we take responsibility very seriously, and we don't want to look like in any way, shape, or form that we're marketing to an under 21 audience. And so that's where we do try, I do feel very strongly that it's, our employees are going to be passionate about what they're passionate about. We can try to incent them to align with the strategy with like the company match that we have, and allow them to kind of volunteer their personal time to support nonprofits they care about. And I really just try to reinforce that with them, because I don't want to discourage that at all. They're incredible ambassadors in the community, but anything in terms of, collectively working together as a team to support an organization, or where we're leveraging and donating our beer or providing monetary support, it really has to be for an organization that's within our strategy and is serving an adult audience.
I think I covered everything on my side. Great.
The only thing I have to add is make sure you've come into our restaurant before you ask for something. I had someone a lady that wanted me to switch my merchant services, and she had not been to my restaurant, and I was like, you don't even know my ordering system. Like, what you're trying to sell me, it would not work. But anyways.
So a number one thing for us, we don't have very deep pockets. So as a national laboratory, we actually at NREL are government-owned, contractor-operated. So speaking of red tape, it gets very red tapey over there. So we're very cognizant of being good stewards of taxpayer dollars to make sure our taxpayer dollars are going to the research. And when we say government-owned, contractor-operated, so the Alliance for Sustainability is who I'm actually employed by. And so our contractor funds are often what are being used to help support nonprofits. So if we can't support you monetarily, we definitely want to get our employees there to volunteer, or get you in front of our employees so you can tell your story.
I guess I would want you to all know that I'm available. Wells Fargo pays me 9 hours a day to sit at a desk and not exercise. And I don't care if you're throwing your first bake sale or, you've working with multi-million-dollar organization. We're there, and I love to help people problem solve. I don't care if you bank with us. I challenge all of you to come sit with me. I'd love to meet all of you.
Great. Thank you so much. So let's just take a second. Everybody, if you want, just stand up. We've been sitting for a long time, so we'll take just a quick stretch break, and then we're going to jump into some audience Q&A. Yeah? And maybe for those of our guests who have had to stand the whole time, I don't know if anybody's feeling like they want to move things around, but we have a few people who have been standing.
I think it's the second time I've ever spoken to a microphone. The one was when I won the Golden Rotary.
I love how you said you have to actually come into a restaurant. I think sometimes folks forget.
All right.
I want to switch.
Goes back
It's just like in school when they do the brain breaks, right? So now we're going to move into our Q&A.
Well, you're still staying in Denver.
It feels good to stand up after being seated for a while. So Robin is going to be, and I'm sorry, Diane, this is Diane. Robin and Diane are going to be walking around the room with microphones so that if you have a question, we can make sure everybody can hear you. So if you do have a question for our panelists, just raise your hand, and Diane or Robin will come around and hand you a microphone. So let's go ahead and take our seats again, and then we'll get right back to it. All right. We have a question at the back. And when you ask a question, if you could say your name and tell us what organization or company you're with, that would be great.
Thank you all so much for your time and for your perspectives. My name is Nina Jane. I am the founding director of Embolden Alliances, a global nonprofit based at Connects. So my question is understanding return on investment and return on energy on all sides. What would you guys say, how can we build a better fora to help a nonprofit, I'm specifically talking about mine, that we don't need a large volunteer base, we don't need unskilled volunteers. But what we're always looking for is help with graphic design or marketing or a treasurer for our board or something that's a little bit longer term commitment than one-off events. So how can we build that exchange better?
And any of our panelists, jump in if you want to.
Yeah, I'd love to tackle that, especially in regard to just like graphic design. I think, again, it's the same type of situation. Like, think about what you can give back to that graphic designer. So maybe it's finding someone who's still in school for it, and you can help them build their portfolio. So something like that is, like, for me, I think that's like the easiest type of situation because they want that work that they can actually put out there in the world. For a board member, I don't know, maybe that's harder.
I personally know a great graphic designer at Wells Fargo who might actually be able to use those volunteer hours. And in addition to the $2,000 match they mentioned, they actually will pay us or pay the organization up to $500 to sit on a board. So there are people that are available for those positions from our side.
So how do we build that network exchange? I mean, just reach out to each of you individually, or is there a way that we can kind of, Golden is a wonderful community, so how can we build that? So like any matching the needs with the gaps.
Use Nextdoor or anything like that to, because I mean, I don't know, I'm always overwhelmed with how like friendly and supportive, for the most part, people are like on Nextdoor, if it's coming from the right angle. Yeah, I think, I don't know, that's what I would do.
And we're going to talk at the very end today about some ideas, and Robin and I have been exploring some thoughts around that too, as have the folks in the ED roundtable. So we'll be talking a little bit. One of our most important goals for today was that we didn't want this to be a one and done kind of conversation. Like, we really want to make sure that this is the start of something and that we can come up with some really great strategies and tools to keep this conversation moving forward. So we'll look forward to talking about that a little bit more at the end. But thank you, Nina. That was a great question.
So my name is Ashley. I own Your Ashtanga Yoga Studio. We're going into our second year, so it's very new. But our mission has always been to sponsor a local nonprofit every 3 months. So we've done that from the get-go. But it can be overwhelming sometimes, and other times it's super easy, especially when I'm working with an organization that understands how to collaborate and not necessarily just take, or if they already have kind of an infrastructure in place. But my question for you all is, since we're going into our second year, am I biting off more than I should chew, or is this a good idea?
I think it's a good idea. I mean, I bit off more than I could chew the first couple of years, and it paid off in the long run. It might be too hard in the beginning, but in the long run, it definitely was a benefit to us to give a lot in the beginning, even though we really couldn't afford it. But in the long run, it has paid off for us, and it's gotten our name out too. So.
I also think that if you're really clear with the nonprofit what your expectations are on the other side, I made some of those mistakes when I first started Connect's Workspace, and I just wanted to help, and then I'm like, oh wait, I need to take care of my resources as well, make sure that I'm here for the next year. And so just being really clear when you engage in a relationship, what you're providing and what you're asking from them.
Yeah, go you. That's awesome. That's so great that you started your company like with that mission in place. I think yeah, it's awesome. Good for you.
I mean, I would say too, I think it's wonderful that you're wanting to give back in that way. And I think, you're probably even just by going through this process trying to figure out, okay, what's going to make the most sense for your business in terms of how you set up this giving program that you do, whether it's, something that your employees overall are generally passionate about. You could even do we've done this before, not at my current employer because we are so consumer facing and that's how we decide our strategy. But, one of my former employers that was very much employee driven, we actually did an internal vote and survey and, kind of put a purview on kind of some areas that we wanted to focus on in giving, but let them do the final vote and then allowed them to select what nonprofits they wanted to support. So that was very helpful in terms of kind of trying to narrow it down and engage and excite our employees and how we were giving back. I mean, it's just one idea in terms of when you're looking just at how you want to be able to really align your company goals with what the community needs.
I like the survey from the employee, but the survey with my customers, it's too many.
Yeah, that gets really overwhelming. It does, yeah. So it just helps you kind of start to refine your strategy.
We're big on employee surveys too, for that and for like everything else. It's a really good way to get genuine feedback.
Hi, I'm with the Golden Lions, and as you know, we have the 4th of July function, and we also have a beer and wine at the Buffalo Bill Days. And one of the things I'm questioning is how's the best way to get the information out in order to get the people to come in and buy our beer and wine? So, like we have flyers and stuff like that. Are there other ideas, maybe use websites on your websites and stuff like that?
I think a lot of that is what Kim's trying to do by putting this entire organization together is we all get sort of stuck in our mindset and what we do, and we don't necessarily involve ourselves in the right forums. And, one person uses Facebook, one uses Instagram, et cetera, and you end up missing a large part of the audience. But if you can create that network of local people that are effectively communicating, I might not be able to put up a flyer, but if I know 20 business owners that could, I can help you in that capacity and vice versa.
Are you looking for volunteers or are you looking to just advertise the event?
We actually look for both. We have volunteers that help with the 4th of July function because the Golden Lions puts on the whole function. So the Golden Lions puts on the whole function. So like we have people going around collecting garbage and stuff like that. We have people coming in from the mines, the veterans group. I believe Wells Fargo has also volunteered to help with some things. Sometimes just help control things. And yes, so it is people and money.
Yeah, I'll just comment that, one of the things in the Golden Executive Director Roundtable that we've talked about a lot is just how do we get the word out about all the great things happening in the nonprofit community, because many of our nonprofits struggle with the same thing. They want to let people know about a great event that they're having, or they need to get volunteers. So we've been having some conversations about that. But I think that's something that we'd love to explore further, because really putting all these great minds together and developing a strategy around communication to support the nonprofits in our community, that, I think we could really do a lot more working together and thinking about that strategically, because every single person in this room is has the same struggle, with reaching their audience. So it's a great question. Damien?
Hi, my name's Damien Friend. I'm a Mines graduate and head of the Alumni Association. And I'd really be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to say what I'm going to say. I really appreciate this interaction this afternoon, but the School of Mines, we have 5,000 students, which is a volunteer pool, and we also have about 9,000 alumni in the Denver metro area. So if we can figure out a way to partner with companies to where, I love the win-win situation, where if you would, say, contact the School of Mines Foundation and say, hey, we would be willing as a company to provide this, and what we're looking for is assistance on a volunteer basis. The gentleman with the Lions Club mentioned the Mines Veterans Alliance. They volunteered at a recent Habitat for Humanity event. Great, we've got over 100 veterans on campus as students now. They love to volunteer. That's part of their mission. The athletics department, we have hundreds of athletes at Mines, and part of their requirement is to do volunteer work. So what better than to get a group of football players to come out and do some heavy lifting or something like that. The Mines Outdoor Recreation Center, you probably are connected with Nate over there, but I would just say, if you can avail yourselves of connecting with Mines, either through the Alumni Association or the foundation, we'd love to work on some different partnering things. We are currently with the alumni working on a plan to put together a relational database, because we hear this from a lot of people on campus, from the alumni. It's everyone has these skills, and we put them down into a spreadsheet or something like that, but how do you connect people with certain skills with people that are looking to utilize those skills? And that's all in a relational database type program. And there's a few that exist out there, but I think we've decided we're going to try to put one together on campus with our computer science department and others. So you may want to stay tuned on that. May make that available to others. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sarah Page, and I'm doing the Leadership Golden program this year. I work for DT Construct and that connects Workspace, and our project is on creating this system to pull together all these different needs, where you have a need for a volunteer or a skill set or donations, and then the people that could potentially supply those. So either if you reach out to Robin or Kim, we don't have an answer, and it's the mission of Leadership Golden is to come up with the plan, and then hopefully it can be executed by other people. But it's something that everybody in the group has identified many times, and so we're struggling with it. So I'm thrilled that this roundtable is happening right now, because it keeps coming back to the same issue of how do we create a platform for being able to link everybody up.
I'm Jim Smith of Golden Real Estate, and I'd love to see more nonprofits take advantage of our free moving trucks. Quite a few organizations have, the Lions Club and Chamber of Commerce and Family Promise and a lot of others, but the trucks are still, we now have 2 trucks, and one of them's almost always sitting idle, and love to have more requests from nonprofits to use our truck. I'd hate to see us spend money with U-Haul or somebody else when you can just come and ask for a truck. In fact, if you look on the front of the truck, it says Golden's Free Community Truck. So that's intentional. We want to see more nonprofits using our trucks, so ask. We also have donated on many times gift certificates for silent auctions for 1 day's free truck rental. And so feel free to ask us for that. We'd give it to any nonprofit.
Dave?
Dave Shuey with the Visitor Center, and I'd like to maybe have you talk a little bit about the importance of matches in grants. And I know we've done some things with Miller Coors in the past and the foundation, Civic Foundation, where we had to match the grant, and I'd be interested in hearing about the importance of that.
Let's see, so you have grant program, Gloria, right? And Jim, you probably do as well. Does NREL have a grants program?
We do not.
Do not. Okay, perfect. So maybe you two, and then Heather, if you want to maybe address that as well. We have Heather here in the audience.
Yeah, I would just say I think matches are a really powerful tool to incent more giving in the community through various avenues, right? Whether it's, the Civic Foundation does amazing work being able to communicate out when they are doing these, challenge matches and engaging people to want to be able to have a greater collective impact by being part of the match. I think if there are events that nonprofits are putting on where you have an audience as well, where you can announce a match at that time, that can be a really powerful tool as well. I've seen that work really well at luncheons where right on the spot somebody offers a match, and that just compelled folks at that moment to, when it's done well, to provide funds and actually help them reach their goal or exceed their goal for fundraising for that day. And I think just, through social media campaigns, distribution through email, I think just heavy promotion of those match opportunities really do challenge people to give and have greater collective impact.
Certainly, just in economies of scale, that's how you turn a single dollar donation into $3 or $4, and that's how you turn a simple matter into something special. And when you're doing those, not only are you opening up the amount of money you're bringing in, you're probably reaching the audience of all of 10 times as many people as well. So it can really lead to exponential growth. I can't speak for Wells Fargo on the corporate side on what they will or won't match, but I can't imagine that it is a harmful thing when you're applying for a grant to say that you're an organization that's putting this money up. Will you meet us on this? This is our expected result. And I think that makes a strong case for everyone involved.
Sorry. So my name is Heather Schneider, and I'm the Executive Director of the Golden Civic Foundation, and I know most of the folks in this room. For those of you that don't know the Golden Civic Foundation, our mission is to increase the economic and cultural vitality of Golden. So I actually have a really cool job because we support everybody. We support businesses. We make partnerships. But for those of you that don't know, we actually just finished off our grant cycle this week at our grant luncheon, but we have a couple different programs available. And one of them is our community grant program, where all the gala and auction proceeds that we ask our companies to support go into this pot of money for community grants. So this year we supported 37 different nonprofits with about $75,000. We also have another program that's usually anywhere from $10,000 and upwards, and that's our special grant program. And those are for capital expenditures. So, for example, the Foothills Art Center received one 2 years ago to open up their space so that they could have two simultaneous exhibitions at the same time. Last year was a capital campaign for the Golden History Museum to improve their programming and their space. This year, like Dave had mentioned, we did a collaborative grant with Miller Coors and the Visitor Center and the Civic Foundation to update their heritage conference room so that they could rent it to nonprofits and for-profits and increase their income that way as well. So, I would also, similar to what all these businesses said today, when just as they would give money to a nonprofit, just as we would give to a nonprofit as well in our grant program, we want to see give and take. It's a two-way street. So we want to see how you're helping the community. We want to see how can you help us with our donation and gala. For example, Powder 7 was pivotal. Well, actually, everybody on this board has been friends of the Civic Foundation. But for example, we got creative this last gala with helping the Golden High School start their fundraising efforts for their track program. So together with Powder 7, with the Golden High School PTA, different City of Golden to help us produce a video. We made this collaborative effort, and stemming out, like if it's a collaborative effort, that's built-in marketing, for everybody involved, and your reach is that much more. So I guess approach the grants the same as you would approach a business of making it a win-win for everybody. So if you have any questions about the Civic Foundation, I'm always happy to answer any questions.
I think we have time for one last question, and then we're going to spend some time talking about some next steps.
Hi, my name is Wendy Wempe, and I'm the founder and executive director of Science Fair Fund. We address inequities in STEM education through the platform of science fairs. My question is, so I think for the smaller businesses, I have an understanding of how to approach smaller businesses, and the larger businesses generally you have a corporate social responsibility team. But how about the medium-sized businesses that might not have a CSR team, and it's not always easy to navigate who to connect with?
Are you trying to avoid sending an email that says, "Dear Sir"?
Yes, exactly. How do you find that right person? Because maybe maybe it's the marketing team, or maybe they just don't have a CSR title. But how do you identify within that company who you might reach out to? Because it's not always clear.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think maybe Powder 7 falls under that. We have like a staff of 30, so we're kind of in that like in between where, there's a lot of people. So usually people reach out to us just by like sending in an email to the main, the same info at Powder 7, right? Where everybody emails questions about skis or anything, or the contact form on our website. But like, I would get creative. If it were me, I used to put on races. I was a race director. When we were first starting Powder 7, I had 2 jobs as a race director, and I ran Powder 7. So then on one end, I was getting requests for donations, and then on the other end, I like really desperately needed people to sponsor my races. So from that perspective, if I were doing that now, I would get creative, and I would probably use social media. I would look on the About Us page. I would find someone higher up and go from there probably. Or I would contact someone in the marketing department, like maybe use LinkedIn or something to get at them that way. It could be a great tactic if they have a Facebook page or Instagram, which like everybody does, send a message via the social platform and be like thorough in that message, saying like what you're doing and all the things I talked about before. But I think if you use the social media messaging, then it's going to go to somebody in the marketing department, and that can kind of be your in, and then just say like, hey, like, I'm not sure if you guys have a CSR team or who handles this, but I've looked and I can't find it, and go at it that way. Yeah.
Thank you, Amy. So thank you so much. I've been jotting down a few key themes that we've been hearing, and I thought it was really interesting to hear that there are some key themes. So I'm just going to share what those are, and you may have others to share, but really looking for a win-win partnership and recognizing that I loved what Jen said about hands together as opposed to hands out. So I think as you approach, if you're a nonprofit and you're approaching a business, thinking about how that can be mutually beneficial, but then vice versa. These businesses really want to be helping the nonprofit community as well. We heard a number of times the importance of doing your research, knowing the names and the genders of the people that you're reaching out to before you send emails, and just knowing that these company representatives get a lot of requests, sometimes 50 emails a week, I think Gloria said. So to just be patient and know that they're doing their best to get back to you. It really is about relationships and building relationships with the businesses in our community and with one another. And I know that we heard Jennifer talk about make sure you're supporting these businesses. If you're going to ask
ask for support from Powder 7. It'd be great if you've been into their shop and you've told your friends to go check it out and that kind of thing. And then just recognizing that most of the businesses, especially the larger ones, but many of them have a carefully designed corporate strategy around how they give and who they give to. So don't be offended if you don't fit within that, but maybe just it's helpful to know that, okay, this business only gives to environmental causes, or this one is not a fit because they can't support young children, that kind of thing. So really taking the time to learn what their strategy is, or finding the right person at the company to learn more about that. So those are some of the key themes. Did I miss any? Did anybody want to throw out any other kind of takeaways?
Just keep using the round table to share these types of best practices and information and what's worked and what's not. But maybe if you found an opportunity, I guess I should be using this, that might not work for your nonprofit, let some others know that maybe it could be appropriate for them.
Yeah, I think in the roundtable, we've really enjoyed learning from one another, and it sounds like there may be an opportunity for some of our businesses who are interested in corporate social responsibility to kind of band together and do some strategic thinking and problem solving and sharing in a similar way, to say, well, what did you do, and how did that work for you, and how can we learn from one another? So I'm just throwing that out there. That seems like it could be really cool. I just wanted to share a couple of thoughts around next steps, and then I really want to hear from you about ideas for next steps too, because honestly, this turnout is so fantastic, and I think that I said it at the beginning, but I'll say it again. I mean, Golden is such a fantastic community, and one of the reasons we all love Golden so much is this exact reason. I mean, people care about this community, people show up, people want connection with one another, and so it's really exciting to see the interest in this topic. So I just wanted to share that Robin and I have been having some conversation, and I've met with some of the people in Leadership Golden as well. So Sarah, we're going to meet on Monday and have coffee, but Robin and I have actually been in the process. I've been talking with a web developer about building a volunteer database, and I purchased a domain name actually called volunteergolden.com. And so I'm going to be building that out over the coming months. And so the vision, and I'd love anyone who wants to get involved. What we're trying to do is exactly what's come up, just a place for nonprofits to put their profile and to say these are the things that we need and these are the opportunities that we have, and then a place where local community members or businesses can go on there and search. So we're working on it. If you have specific thoughts about that, I'd love to hear from you, but I think we're hopeful that we can have something. And Damien, if Minds wants to partner with it, we would love to make it a community-wide discussion. But the goal is to have a place where everyone in Golden can go to find information. The last couple of things I'll say, and then I want to hear from you about ideas for next steps, is when I was putting together the roundtable, I kept thinking about we have this wonderful shop local kind of idea here in Golden, and I've just been thinking so much about the concept of Give Golden, Volunteer Golden. How do we get the word out to our community to just really identify that kind of we give locally, we volunteer locally, we're super supportive of our local community. I think that that's such a powerful thing about being in a small town. And so anyway, I wanted to just invite you all to share thoughts about next steps. I'm going to be sending out a survey after today, and hopefully you all signed in at the back. If you didn't, please do it on your way out. But if you're comfortable with us sharing your contact information, we'd love to be able to send a list out of everyone that was here with emails and that kind of thing so that you can connect. And then I'd like to send a survey out to all of you. Robin and I are going to be following up, but just to get thoughts about next steps and where do we go from here. And we don't want this to be the last time we all get together and think through some of these things. So we'd love to hear your thoughts through that survey. But now we have a few minutes left, and I'd just love to hear any suggestions or thoughts about how we keep this conversation moving, tools we can use to connect or track volunteer hours, that kind of thing. So any comments or ideas?
Hi, I was one group that was not represented. I'm a Golden local. I've lived here for a long time, raised my kids here. So I think a great thing that we could do with your visit, Volunteer Golden, is partner with maybe the Chamber. I don't know that the Chamber has a page on their page that says volunteers, or same with Golden Today. Probably visit Golden, volunteer Golden. That seems like a natural marriage to me. And then a Facebook page would, of course, be one of the first things I'd start with.
Other thoughts or comments? We've got two more, I think.
Oh, I just had a quick one. Laura Weinberg, Golden City Council. But I always hear a lot about, Tyson and I had this conversation recently about families with children who want to volunteer and finding those opportunities where youth in Golden can sign up to volunteer and help nonprofits. It's not always known where they're welcomed and where they're not, and so including that in sort of age ranges for that volunteering would be really useful as you're building that database.
Great feedback, thank you. We had one up here.
I don't need it, but hi, I'm Jay Dykeman. I run the Golden Hotel. And I just wanted to pass along to everyone else here what I pass along to my own staff. And I don't mean this disrespectfully, but in a community, get up out of your chair and go meet people. And just like we said with, before you have your hand out, go put your hand together. And just like walking into my hotel, who runs the hotel? I would like to meet them. I want to do this. Who runs your business? Who runs this business? And if you have that forum or format of, getting out there to meet people, do that. In our organization, I'm challenging all of my department heads right at this very moment to, do you know your peers in the industry? Get out and meet them. And you don't meet them, you're not getting out there for a purpose or anything else yet, but that purpose is just getting to know people. Yeah, and there's many, many, many formats for that. Anyway, come say hi to me, I'm Jay.
That's great, thank you. I think we have one more question at the back.
All right, it's just a suggestion that when you put together your website, you have a template very quickly that volunteer organizations can put in with their skill sets that they are looking for, and that it be, the more data you can get, the better, because it's going to be garbage in, garbage out. And if you want a relational database that's searchable by visitors or by nonprofits, it's got to work both ways. So I would just suggest that you have a robust template that people fill out, even if they don't have all the information. At least it's consistent so that the data that's being developed is searchable and usable. Otherwise, could be weak.
What was your name? I'm sorry.
Don Cameron, sorry.
Great. I will say that this volunteer database came out of, in the ED roundtable, we started with a Google form that we sent out. Actually, it was with School of Mines. We wanted to find a way to connect students. And so we built this Google form that was, kind of had these specific questions around skill set and age ranges. But if you've used Google Forms, it kind of all populates into this clunky spreadsheet, and it's not very user-friendly. So this is really how it kind of evolved, was like, how can we make this, the data's good, but the presentation of it is not great. So trying to think about how to have it be more user-friendly on the back end, for sure. So that's great feedback. I think we had one more question, Sarah.
You have talked a lot about millennials and the younger generations, and I'm really curious about how they're accessing information, because what we have identified are these different categories. One is families who on a weekend are like, oh, it'd be really great if we could do some sort of social interaction, social justice, whatever it is. Where do we go to find that? But then you also have millennials that are so involved in social media. What is the best way to access them, and how are they finding these opportunities? I'm curious if you've had any experiences with that, and then you have older populations or veteran populations who may not want to use the computer, so how do they find that?
I have an answer to this. So one of the best ways to use Instagram, which almost every millennial is on, is to actually comment on their photos. And don't comment on it and like, hey, that's great, come visit me, but actually make a genuine comment. So spend an hour a day or 2 hours with your own Instagram page and actually do that. And look for people that live in Golden, interact in Golden, or even coming to visit Golden. That's honestly one of the best ways. It's called the 180 rule. I'm not feeling too well, so I apologize for my brain being a little out of it. I forget the guy that came up with it, but he's an awesome guy. He owns a few businesses and has done a great job, and that's one of his rules, and it's actually helped us a lot. So Instagram, comment, genuine comments.
Yeah, it is interesting to know that, Golden has this real mix of ages in our community. We have lots of young families moving in, and we have a lot of older people that have been here a long time, and so it's important to find communication strategies that work for everyone. And I am so sorry, but we are actually out of time, and I'm a big believer in ending meetings on time. So I really want to take a moment to thank Robin for helping to plan this with me. I want to thank all of our panelists for taking time to be here. And then I just really appreciate all of you coming today as well. And so look for an email from me. Please make sure you filled out the sign-in sheet at the back. We have some materials that you're welcome to take, including a great article that was in the Denver Post about corporate social responsibility that was printed, I think, last week. So reach out with any questions. We're grateful to be a part of this great community. Thank you so much.
So you are singing.
So yeah, it was really fun for me to hear. I love that. I didn't know you did that with Protect Our Winners. That's really